Welcome to Eventual Millionaire. I'm Jaime Tardy, and I am so excited to have Michael Port back on the show. He has a new book called Steal the Show, and way back when, I remember reading Book Yourself Solid and being like, oh my gosh, he's amazing. So I'm so excited to have you on the show. Thanks so much for coming on, Michael.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. I'm happy to be here. It's great.
Awesome.
Thanks for
Do you want me to bow like, oh my gosh, it's Michael Port?
Do you know how, look, I have this new book out and I'm doing tons of interviews, and do you know how sick of myself I am? I'm so bored with my voice.
So let's pretend you're someone else today. Is that a better
That's
idea?
exactly what it is. Hello.
Michelle Port.
Exactly. I'll
so
play another.
awesome.
Like, yo, how you doing? What's up? That's what I'm going to do today.
I forget you're an actor. Yeah, so you totally could do that. What the heck? Maybe we should.
Hi, mommy. How you doing? Mira, chica. What's happening?
That's creepy. Oh my gosh,
Creepy.
that's good.
It's weird.
No, it's good. It's good.
Well,
Everybody listening on audio is freaked out.
What if all my interviews I did like that? I'm like, hello, this is Michael Port talking, and I'm going to tell you something very important. How bored would you be? You'd just be bored out of your mind.
I kind of like that. I thought that was good. That was a good audiobook voice, right?
Oh, right. Welcome to Steal the Show. From speeches to job interviews to deal closing pitches. How to guarantee. Yeah.
Well, you did my intro, man. That was awesome.
Well, I used to, you know, one of the things I joke about often is that when I do the audiobooks for my books, when I read them, and I'm one of the few authors apparently in our space that reads them.
No kidding.
It's the thing I was actually trained to do. Like all this stuff I've been doing over the last 12 years, I figure that out on the street, you know, on the fly. When I go back to the performance side of things, that's what I was trained to do. I have a master's from NYU, from the graduate acting program at NYU. So that's easy for me. So now I've told my friends I'll read their books for them.
Really?
Yeah, for foot massages.
Will you read mine? I haven't done my audiobook yet. Yeah? Will you do mine?
Just a foot massage. That's all I ask.
Done.
You know?
Sold.
It only takes 4 days, 9 hours a day, but yeah.
You have to be doing the foot massage the entire time while you're reading it, right?
That's right.
Okay.
While I'm doing this, when I get, that's how it goes.
That's awesome. You're like, okay, for real. So I think that's what's so utterly amazing, though, is that you can go and roll with the punches, and most people, and no offense, most speakers can't do this right now. They're sort of either on or they're off. They're like super introvert and I know my stuff, or I don't. And you came from this amazing background. Can everybody do what you're doing? I mean,
no.
Okay.
It's only me. I'm special. No, of course.
You are.
Look, we're individuals. We all have our strengths. Not everybody's going to be Jerry Seinfeld. Even the comedians can't do what Jerry Seinfeld can do. So each one of us is an individual. And I think we are all performers to one extent or another, but we're different kinds of performers. And you don't need to be an entertainer to be a performer. That's important to remember.
And you won't be boring though, right?
No, you don't know, because because performing is not just about wowing an audience. Performing is about connecting. So for example, let's say you don't have children, do you?
I do. I have 2.
You're too young to have children.
Oh, why? Thank you. They're 6 and 8, so they're not. I appreciate that.
So clearly in high school, you were walking around pregnant.
Why, thank you.
That must have been strange.
I love you more now. Thank you.
Well, so you have 2 kids.
Yes.
Now, if they're in school and they have a math teacher that they love, and the math teacher is incredibly funny, keeps them laughing all day long, but they don't learn any math, is that an effective math teacher? No.
Of course.
If you have a speaker on stage who is there to teach social media, and they don't teach a lot of social media, but they keep everybody laughing the whole time, are they effectively achieving their goal, the promise that they've made?
No.
Probably not.
Yeah.
And the same thing is true. The opposite is true. If you have a speaker who comes out and teaches math, a comedian, that's better. If you have a comedian who comes out and teaches math, it doesn't make anybody laugh, are they an effective comedian? No. So if we're really clear on what our role is, and we know we've made a clear promise to an audience, then we can develop a character that is based on our authentic personality, amplifying some parts of our personality, downplaying other parts of our personality, to deliver that promise to the audience, we do it with our individual style, our unique style. So, Amy and I and others at Heroic Public Speaking, we've trained so many different kinds of speakers. We've trained people who never want to get on the stage, but just need to improve the way they present. And then we've trained the A-listers, the top people on the professional side of the business. And it's important to me that nobody ever knows that we trained them. Now, not from a marketing perspective. They should tell everybody to come work with us. But you will never look at one of our students and go, that's a Michael Port trained actor.
Not like the formula kind of
exactly.
thing. Yep.
I definitely have created a very modern methodology for public speaking based on acting technique. So you take acting technique and you reorganize it for a non-actor so they can use it as a speaker. And that's a methodology. But stylistically, we're completely blank. And that's what I love. Like I see, when I talk to you and I talk to others, I see the individuals. It's just like, bang, it shouts out at me. And so what we're trying to do is find the style that fits you the best. And it's important that we remember that, because sometimes people will look at me and go, oh, well, he's a former actor. He was on TV. He has a voice that's good for voiceovers. I don't want anyone to be like me. You do not want to live in this head. It is not always a great place to be. You might produce a lot of stuff, but it's not always a great place to be. So so each one of us, creates our own style, and then we act on that. And you don't have to be some kind of big entertainer to do it.
So how do I find that? So I was just telling you before, I just came back from a speaking gig in Stanford, Connecticut at Freedom Fest, and it was awesome. Some of the speakers were utterly amazing, and I'm sort of going, I just like going on stage. I don't know that I have a character at all, or that I should have a character. When I meet people, they're like, oh, you're the same off stage, you're the same on stage, you're the same on your podcast, you're the same off. Should I be trying to?
No, that's exactly right. And when I say character, I don't mean you're never pretending to be something other than you are. You're
good,
not,
because I'm bad at that. I'm not an actor.
but here's the thing. You're going to amplify your personality in some ways when you're on the stage performing for a larger group. But it's still who you are. And that's what you want. But see, here's the thing. You feel comfortable being self-expressed in all aspects of your life, I imagine. I don't know anything about your personal life, but I'm just guessing that you're a pretty self-expressed person. And self-expression, when done, when offered to the world compellingly, is based on a good sense of self-understanding. Because otherwise self-expression just is here's what I feel. I am true to myself. I don't care what anybody thinks. I am a straight shooter, and that kind of thing. And that can get in your way, because life is made up of lots of performances, and how you perform in the high stakes situations of your life will determine the quality of your life.
I love that.
It's true. If you shy from the spotlight, if you get into the spotlight and you sabotage yourself because you talk yourself out of it, because all those voices of judgment in your head go blah, 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 blah. You suck, you don't know enough. What do you have to say that anybody else has said? If you let those voices, or you let the critics out in the cheap seats, the ones who push people down to lift themselves up, if you let them talk you out of being in that moment, then you play a smaller game. And so one of the things we're doing is we're focusing on results rather than approval. Because most people who go onto stage focus on getting approval. I want to be really good. I want everybody to laugh. I want to get people to clap for me. I want them to laugh at my jokes. I want to be funny. This is all about you. And it is never about you. It is never, ever, ever about you. And the way that you reduce your anxiety is twofold. One, you actually know what you're doing. That helps. So preparation, rehearsal, being able to improvise in the moment because you're rehearsed is a lot easier. Otherwise, you're just winging it. Winging it is not improvisation, and is not generally an effective strategy. You might be able to pull it off if you're clever, but you can be better. And most speakers who do a good job winging it, when they when I get them aside and they're outside of, earshot of others, they go, yeah, I know I could be a lot better, but I've been getting away with this for so long, and people pay me for it. I go, well, do you want to be good or do you want to be just blow them out of the water good? And, that's, I suppose, a rhetorical question.
That is a perfect question, though, for me, actually. When we talk about, so I started speaking, I turned bright red, by the way, like blotchy red,
yeah,
where
that's
people,
not unusual.
Yeah. So where people were like, do you have hives when I started speaking? So I went to
Yeah.
Toastmasters and I did that sort of thing. And I was like, I'm just not meant to be a speaker. I just turned bright red. Now I don't care as much. I still turn bright red, and everybody, usually I'm on stage so far away from people, they don't really notice it as much, which is always
Just a lot of dark foundation. That's all. That's all you need.
I used to get tans. Like I used to go, I'm the palest person humanly. I'm like translucent. And I would try and get tans.
So, okay, great. So this is the second way to reduce anxiety. This is a perfect example, because if you're hyper nervous about getting red, then of course you'll probably get
worse.
redder.
Yes.
And then what happens is you take your focus off being in service of the audience. You care more about whether they think you're red or not than actually delivering on your promise.
Yep.
So when we are self-absorbed, and I don't mean that in a negative way, not like you're a narcissist, but absorbed in wanting to be perceived a certain way, not wanting to look stupid, like they're going to think I'm such a horrible person. They think I'm so dumb because I turned red. Like nobody in the audience is thinking that. And you wouldn't think that either. You'd be like, oh, look, they get red when they're nervous. Okay, fine. I'm more interested in what she has to say than whether or not she's red. So, but when we focus on ourselves, it tends to exacerbate the problem, tends to make it worse. So what we want to do is focus on the audience. A colleague of mine called me up a number of years ago because she had a big broadcast TV interview. And she said, Michael, it was one of those big morning programs, network program. She said, Michael, I am so psyched. This is the biggest thing I've ever got. I really want to be good. How can I be good? I said, you can't. Dead silence on the phone. I think she fell off her chair. And I said, no, it's not that you're not good, but you can't go in with the objective to be good. You can only go in with the objective to be helpful. And if you're helpful, you will then probably be perceived as good by most people. But it's rare that you can help everyone. That just, and the better known you get, the more exposure you have, the more detractors you're going to have. It's just the way it is. And there's not a lot you can do about that. But you can go in and help the people that you're meant to serve. And there are three types of audiences. There are audiences that are diehard fans. They're going to love everything you say. Then there are the people who are absolutely never going to come to your side of the fence. It's like somebody who, it's like Donald Trump trying to get a Bernie Sanders a supporter to go over to his side. Those things are just not going to happen. So there's the group of people in the middle who are the persuadables. They're the people who aren't on your side of the fence yet, but they're interested in what life looks like on that side of the fence. That's the group you focus on. Because the fans you've already got, they're already on your side of the fence. If you just focus on them, then you're pandering. And the people who just say, no way, I wash my hands of you, I'm not interested in that. If you try to get them, you're just trying to get approval from people who are not interested in you. And the other people go, hello, what happened to us? But those people in the middle, they're the ones who want to make a change, because anytime you give a speech, you're trying to change the way people think, change the way they feel, or change something that they do. And there's always a big idea that supports that presentation. And the idea doesn't need to be different to make a difference. It just needs to be something that's important to you and the people in the room. And they always need to know why it's important to you. Because unless we connect with the messenger, the message won't connect with us. And then the second thing is the big promise. And the big idea, it drives the through line that helps deliver on the promise. And that's what they want. They go, you know what? I'm interested in that promise, but here's the thing. You're asking me to see the world differently. You're asking me to change the way I see the world. What if I've seen the world like this for 20 years and the decisions I've made for the past 20 years have been based on this worldview? You're telling me I got to turn my whole world upside down and realize that all the decisions I made were decisions that took me in the wrong direction. Well, that's confronting, isn't it? Even if I want to believe it, even if I know deep down somewhere inside that that's the truth, I may resist it, even if I'm a great, giving, caring, open-minded person. So if you're not focused entirely on delivering that promise, then it's easy for me to find a reason not to pay attention to you. So when you're focused on yourself, then you're not delivering on that promise in the same way. The other thing that's important is that you're able to demonstrate to them that you know the way the world looks to them. Because if they don't know the way the world, they don't know that you know their world, another reason for them to say, no, she doesn't know me.
Yeah.
And, even if somewhere in the back of my head, I go, she's probably right. I don't have to listen because she doesn't really know me. I mean, how many times have you heard from a client, well, my industry is different. You're like, it's not really actually, but okay, let me just show you that I know the way your world looks. And then to be able to demonstrate that the consequences of not adopting this big idea. Because you want to demonstrate the rewards, of course, but if you just demonstrate the rewards, but not the consequences, the rewards may feel too out of reach. So, it's like with public speaking, I don't talk a lot about, in the initial part of conversation with people about this, I don't talk a lot about all the amazing things that are going to happen to them if they improve their public speaking. I will, but I'll also talk about the things that will happen to them if they don't.
Pain is more motivating.
Pain is more motivating. And it gets us to say, all right, I'm going to do something about this until you have connected so strongly with the idea that you want to embrace the new idea. Because if the pain isn't strong enough, then I can find ways to resist. I can find ways to say no. It's like investing for retirement. Most people don't invest for retirement. When I was younger, I didn't invest for retirement. I just spent whatever money I had. I'm like, I got some money. Let me spend it. Let me see what I can buy today. And, that's not a great way to live if you ever want to stop working. And at some point, my brain is not going to work that well and I'll have to stop working. But the pain of not having the money initially will start to get you to invest. And usually that happens in middle age. But then you may start to see what life can be like when you don't work. You go, wow. So if I invest properly, I could retire by 50. People are like, well, you're not. People always say this to me. They're like, oh, you're going to hate retirement. You're going to always want something to do. No way. I'm going to love it. Are you kidding me? I'm going to do whatever I want to do. But the point is you have to see that. You got to see the pain of what life would be like if you can't get there. And then also what the rewards will be like. But initially it's the pain that gets you going. And then you see what's possible because you're starting to do it. And then the rewards start to become something that you can see a little bit closer to you.
Isn't that sort of like the cult mentality too, where they show you like how bad it is, and then over here it's amazing and wonderful, and people, it's just psychology.
So trying to get everyone into a cult. I didn't realize that's what was happening.
That's what you're doing. You didn't know that?
What do we call it? The portal? That's what we call the cult?
Oh my gosh, that would be perfect. We're building something completely different right now, Michael.
Just great. I've always wanted to be a cult leader.
My friend has a course called Ethical Cult Building, and I'm like, it is kind of creepy. It is cult building.
That's really creepy, actually. Yeah, it's really creepy.
So tell me about like the structure, because I love the idea of the big promise and then the paint and figuring that out. But how do I structure a speech like that, especially what to say when and stuff like that? How can I make it tactical?
So remember these 5 things I just said. You got a big idea.
Yep.
You have a big promise. You can demonstrate that you know how the world looks to them, that you can demonstrate the consequences, and you can paint a picture of what the rewards will look like. Then we need to start looking at a structure for the presentation. It's interesting. There isn't a huge difference between the highly paid professional speaker and the professional speaker that's on the circuit new, not really being paid a lot, but has a lot to say, has really good content. The biggest difference is the swagger. Really, the attitude.
Sweet.
And sometimes
I just have to learn that. That's perfect. Awesome.
Yeah, it's sometimes you go, God, that's really not fair. They've got this swagger, not much to say, not a lot of talent, didn't work on their speech, but they're up there going, I should be here. I'm meant to be here. I have no idea why I said that. Oh, yes. But the other difference is that sometimes the expert is perceived to be an expert because their information is better organized. The information is better organized. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to organize our information in a way that people can consume. So if you look at my first book, Book Yourself Solid, one of the things that people say is, wow, there's a lot of things that I heard before that are in there, but I'd never seen it organized in that way that it was so easy to get a handle on. And that's what I try to do. Same thing with Steal the Show, which is this book that I just came out about public speaking. It's organized in such a way that you go, oh, I know what to do. And that's really important. So if you can organize your information very well, then it's easier for people to consume, but it's also easier for you to deliver. Because otherwise you're just delivering a whole bunch of ideas. And ideas you can do in conversation. You and I can just have a great conversation about these ideas because you will inspire me based on what you said. And then I'll say something and then I'll get you thinking about something else and ask another question. A conversation is dramatically different than a speech. So if you're just going to go up and wing your ideas, it'll seem disconnected and it's not the right forum for it generally. So there are a number of different structures that you can use to organize your information. And I'll use a few books as examples because many of us have read the same books, but we haven't all seen the same speeches. And a book is often written in a structure that is similar to the way that you would give the speech. So the most common structure is the numerical structure. 7 secrets of highly effective people, or 7 habits of highly effective people, Stephen Covey. It's so simple. And I remember when I first started in this business, I'm like, I'm not doing a 7 key thing. It's too simplistic. I'm more sophisticated than that. It's such baloney. What you need to do is you need to try to figure out a way to make the information as consumable as possible, as straightforward as possible. And certainly that makes a difference for the buyer, as we said before, because they can consume it, but also because they're more willing to buy it. It makes more sense to them when they're in the buying process. But you can deliver all, say if there's 7 keys, 7 habits, you can deliver all of them in a speech. You can deliver 2 of them. You can deliver them in any order that you want. So what you do is you have now content that is easy to repurpose, reorganize. Sometimes you have 20 minutes to give a speech. Sometimes you have 2 hours. And so your content will need to be expanded or contracted depending on the length of time you have. Now, there's also a chronological framework. Steps. You do this, then you do this, then you do this. Now, of course, there's a numerical component if you have a number of steps. So there's a crossover there. Very straightforward, easy to produce the content, easy to consume, easy to deliver. And then there's also the modular. Modular is very effective because you can take a whole bunch of different big ideas and organize them into their own modules or parts so it's easier to consume. And then inside those parts, you can use a numerical or you can use a chronological framework or any of the other frameworks that I'm about to mention. So Steal the Show is in 3 parts. So the first part is your mindset, right? The mindset of a performer. The second part are the performance principles. And the third part is a masterclass in public speaking. And there's a chronological nature to it. I want you to have a performer's mindset before you start digging into the principles. And I want you to dig into the principles before you go into the technique. Because if you just go into the technique, you may layer technique on top of a mind that doesn't think like a performer. So that's an excellent way to organize the information in a modular framework where you also use some of these other frameworks inside those modules. Another framework that's very effective is a compare and contrast framework. So Jim Collins used this so well. I was looking at the BookScan bestseller lists today in the different categories because we're looking at our pre-sale numbers for Steal the Show, and we were doing some math. And I was looking at the BookScan to see how we matched up with what's being sold right now.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. But Good to Great is still selling thousands and thousands and thousands of copies every week. Just amazing.
Go buy Michael's book right now, just so everybody knows, to make him feel better. Okay.
Thank you very much. Otherwise I'll feel like worthless. I just need your approval. That's all. So, Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Workweek still sells 1,500 copies a week.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So the top book right now on the nonfiction list is selling, I think, 35,000 copies a week. Wow. That's a lot of books. That's a lot of books. Okay. So now back to these frameworks. But compare and contrast is excellent. So if he had in his book, he had a number of companies. Some were good, some were great. And he showed you what was similar about them and what was different. And he said, well, if you too are different in this way, you might be great. So if you have, let's say you're a social media person, you're comparing and contrasting two different platforms or two different ways of behaving in a given platform. Now you're introducing an interesting intellectual thought process to the audience, and it makes it easier for you to organize those thoughts. Then there is the problem solution framework. Here's a problem, here's a solution. Here's a problem, here's a solution. Now, many people might want it to be more complicated because then they don't have to do it. You know how that happens.
Yep.
If it's so complicated, I'm not going to do it. It's not always that complicated. Problem, solution, problem, solution, problem, solution. Okay, here are the 10 biggest problems that, I'm just going to say this, leaders face. Okay, here's a solution for each one. Great. Absolutely outstanding, simple, straightforward, organized. There's a book called Why Parents Love Too Much. I'm not sure if it's still in print. A colleague of mine wrote it 20 years ago or something. And, his theory was that the helicopter parents are just showing too much love to their children and they're screwing them up. And he said, here are the X number of problems that are being created by these parents who love too much. And here are the solutions. That's great. Awesome. Right. So these are some of the frameworks that you can use to organize your content.
So I have a question. Was that all of them? Because I have a question about what I usually do.
There's more. I could go on. But those we'll leave them there.
That is extremely helpful because when you're sitting down and looking at a blank piece of paper and going, I have to write a new speech, it's sort of like, okay, where do you start? And I came up with this framework, and I don't know if it's good. People seem to like it, but let me ask the expert you. Okay. So mine's modular, apparently.
Hate it. It's terrible.
I'm going to go cry.
It's horrible.
I'm going to go cry now. Thank you.
Yeah. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
So the problem that I see is that people listen to speeches in general, amazing ones or not amazing ones, and don't do anything afterwards, and it annoys the crap out of me, right? So the way that I've done it since the very beginning was I do the rule of 3, right? And at the end of each one, I give an action item, and then at the end of the speech, I make them pick one action item to do.
Great.
And a date that they'll actually do it by. So that way, I can slap them a little bit from on stage. Is that a good thing? I do that everywhere I go.
It's great.
Okay.
What you're doing is you're creating a structure of accountability. Now, would I love to see more people do that? Yeah, absolutely. I think it's great. I think it's outstanding.
How can I make it better? What would do better?
Okay, so tell me again. You walk through 3 different potential action items.
Yep.
And you say choose one.
Yep.
Okay. Now the question now is, okay, they choose one and they put a date on it, but what's next?
What I used to do is I actually had a sheet, and I said, "Come see me after. Fill out your name, your email address. No, I won't put you on my list, and what the action item is, and we'll email you in a week." So I was doing that, but that took a lot because it ended up being quite a bit.
That's a lot. So what would be interesting, there's one thing is for you to hold them accountable. It's another thing for their peers to hold them accountable.
Ooh.
What I've found over the years is that peers tend to do a very good job of holding each other accountable. I could scare them a little bit. It's like it's with your teacher. You really don't want to disappoint your teacher, but you don't always hand in your homework. More often than not, it's the peer group that really makes it work. When I was in the fitness industry, I ran a division of a company that had the division I ran was all group fitness. That was my focus. And we found that people first chose the classes they went to because of the instructor. So the celebrity instructor was the person that brought them in, but they often stayed there because of the people. So on Thursday, your friend would say to you, "Where the heck were you Tuesday? I was here for 6:30 class. Where were you?" You're like, "All right, I'll be here next time. I'll be here next time." And that kind of structure is important. So now the question is, what could you do to put them into some sort of position where they are holding each other accountable to these commitments? The other thing that will do is it'll make them feel more connected to you as a group.
That's awesome.
And the more connected they are to you as a group, the more likely they are to join your cult. If they're just accountable to you, it's still an individual thing that nobody else really knows if they don't follow through on. I'm just I'm big on public accountability in general. And so the more public you make it, because you bring people together. So obviously there's software we can use. There's different, methodology. So whatever the system is something you'll search for and you'll figure out and you'll find out what's best. But I like the idea of getting their friends involved in it.
Good. Make them kick them in the butt instead of me. That's a
Yeah.
lot less responsibility
But
for
still,
me too.
you're the leader of the group and you're facilitating this. So they attribute a lot of their results to you.
I like this. Make other people do my work and then I get all the credit for
Well, that's the secret to success, No, and I'm dyslexic.
Really?
And and the Kaufman Foundation did a study. They're an entrepreneurial organization, and they did a study on entrepreneurs, and they found that a disproportionately large number of successful entrepreneurs are dyslexic as compared to the general population. And there's a number of different reasons why. They thought, well, they tend to be good verbal communicators, and that's important when you're trying to lead a team, a group of people, get your ideas sold, etc. They also don't fit that well inside the structures that other people create. They are more comfortable creating their own structures, and they have to take ideas and reorganize it into a way that makes sense for them. That's fortunately the way it makes sense to me tends to make sense to other people. So that's why the books have done well. But then finally, I thought this was the funniest, is they're very good at getting other people to do their work for them.
You're like, yes, great.
Yeah, because when I was younger, I still can't. I can't take notes and listen at the same time. So if you're giving me a lesson, I can't sit and listen and take notes, because by the time I finish writing down the thing you just said, you're already onto the third thing, because it takes me longer. So I would have to be the kind of person that others would be willing to give their notes to. So you develop a certain personality that, because otherwise people are like, "Oh, you're just an idiot. You don't want to do any work. You take my notes." Like, no, I'm serious about this. I just can't take notes. Can I have your notes? And then give them a smile.
So you got smooth when you were younger, and that's what.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly.
Oh,
And it may be possible that I asked women for their notes more than men. I'm not saying that's what I did, but it just may be possible.
Especially with your smile. And that smile.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh.
The smile. I used to have hair. I didn't always look like a serial killer. I was once, had hair.
Oh my God. Okay, tell me this, because at that last conference I went to, some of the guys were just utterly hilarious. And does that really make a bigger difference? Like, I am funny one-on-one usually, and I don't get me wrong, I get laughs on the stage, but I don't feel like I'm as funny. Does that matter? Like, how?
Yeah,
Tell me about
that's interesting. There's a big debate in the world of comedy about whether women are as funny as men.
Ouch. No.
Yeah. Oh, there's a couple
totally
documentaries on this.
Really?
Specific. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. Because if you look at the comedy industry, stand-up comedy,
Yeah.
I don't know what the percentage is, but it's about 95% male and 5% female. So there are some incredibly famous female comedians, and more now than there were 10 years ago. but there are still more men. Now, part of that is because it's a boys' club.
Yep.
And the boys like to keep the women out of the boys' club sometimes.
Yep.
So I think that's part of it. And I think that will hopefully change over time. So I do not think that men are funnier than women. I think that men are often willing to look stupid. So they may make fun of themselves more. I don't know. This is anecdotal, not empirical.
Yeah.
So to that end, because the reason I mentioned this is because you said a lot of the guys.
Yeah.
So the guys.
No. So I wasn't the token female. Usually I'm the token female, by the way.
That's another problem. Where are the women? Where are the women?
Exactly.
And here's what's interesting. In our training programs, more women than men.
Really?
And I love that. I love seeing that.
See,
first of all, women take direction better than men on stage.
Yeah, totally.
Men are like, no, let me tell you why I'm doing it this way. And I'm like, I don't care why you're doing this way. Do it this way. So that's it. And then the other thing is that the organizers often think of men first because they know who the men are, because it's been like that for a while. But the other problem is that the women's conferences don't pay the women.
Yeah.
It's like the National Speakers Association not paying speakers to speak at their conferences. It's a crazy concept. They are supposed to be helping speakers get paid, but they don't want to, some honor to be there. And there are times I speak for free for my friends. There are times where I speak at a conference that's huge and I'll speak for free because I know it's good for business. So professional speakers, my regular speaking fee is $30,000. Professional speakers will speak for free when the opportunity gives them something that is valuable, no doubt. But there's this thing in the women's conferences where they'll bring in two huge keynoters, pay them an extraordinary amount of money. And then everybody else, like, it's an honor. Now you're going to have to apply. And then you're really lucky to be here. We're not paying you. We're not going to put you up. We're not going to pay for your travel. We're not going to feed you. We'll give you a badge. And maybe someone will be there to help you with the microphone, but probably not. Yeah, you're laughing because
yes, I know. Yeah. I say no to those now.
So I'm really looking forward to change there because the women's conference business is huge business. I mean, huge business, massive business now, and it's fantastic. But I'd love to see that change. And this is one of the things that comes up at a lot of our events when we're talking about the business side of things.
It's so funny though too. Like it's even harder for me to find women millionaires, just in general, it's hard to find women, even though there's women groups like crazy. And I usually hang out with the guys. That's sort of like my shtick, right? I love UFC and comic books and weird stuff. So it's all good. But it's still like a guy's world. And so even in speaking, like my friend's running a conference and I had him on a webinar for my private group and they're like, where are all the women? I was like, yeah, how come you didn't ask me to speak? Like it's so amazing.
Yeah. Hello.
I know.
Right here. Duh.
No, exactly. Hello. Yeah. And even if it's in their face, you know what I mean? It's still something that's different. So just, I don't know. It's odd.
Yeah. This is not an area of expertise for me. I don't have the answer on this. But I just recognize what the industry looks like. Now there are very, very successful professional speakers.
Definitely.
And there are women and there are a fair number of them, but they still are outnumbered by the men considerably.
Definitely.
So you were asking about humor. Now, the other thing about public speaking is by the way, everything is public speaking. I'm not sure. Unless you're talking to yourself in your head, everything is public speaking. So public speaking is not just on a stage. If you're speaking out loud, you're speaking in public. So let's just get that on the table. The humor thing is interesting because some have said that the speakers that make people laugh get paid more.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, good. I'll work on that.
Now, I don't know if that's true, but that's the running idea.
Interesting. It's just because people are not falling asleep and therefore they think they did a better job or something
because
like that.
They feel like entertainers.
Yeah.
They're getting entertainment. Mm-hmm. Did I mention earlier the math teacher and the comic?
Yeah.
Right? Remember the same thing? So I think that is something also to consider. Mm. I have a colleague, good friend of mine, who got a comment card once that said, he was teaching social media. That's what he was there to teach. And the comment card said, if I'd wanted to laugh, I would have gone to a comedy club. And I think his perspective on it was, oh, well, she's got no sense of humor. That's ridiculous. What's wrong with laughing? But I was thinking about it because, maybe her point was she wanted it more focused on the content. She was there for an educational experience, not for the humor. So it's finding the right balance, because I know that I could tip the scales on the side of humor in my speeches and have people laughing a lot, but I would be able to deliver a lot less. So you're trying to find the balance. It's enough humor so they can have fun, enough humor to get them to the next point. Because what's humor for? Is humor just to be funny? Or does humor help you in some way deliver on your promise? That's what I ask myself when it comes to humor. Because if it's just, I want to make people laugh, then it's for my approval.
Ouch. Yeah, that hit.
And so I don't think it's necessary. I don't think you have to be a stand-up comic. I don't think you have to be focused on writing jokes, telling jokes, although I put a big section in Steal the Show on how to write jokes.
Oh, good, because I was going to ask you about that, because what if you're not very funny, and what if I'm not good at coming up with just jokes? You know what I mean?
And I don't think you should. I mean, I don't think you should spend time coming up with jokes. I don't think that's what a speaker should do.
Good.
And I don't think you should open with a joke.
Okay, good.
I think that's just a bad idea.
Yeah.
I don't think you should open with a story unless that story kills and it is directly related to the big idea. If you just come in with a story that's a funny story about something that happened to you when you were a kid because people laugh at the end of the story, but doesn't have anything to do with the speech, it's not serving the audience, it's not serving the promise, not serving the speech. So you can go directly right into that material without a whole big hullabaloo at the beginning of a presentation. So most articles you see about public speaking will start off with something like, tell stories. I think there's a word missing. You know what it is?
No.
Good.
Oh, good. I was going to say relevant. Yeah, exactly.
Well, tell good stories. Yeah. So, we don't have to worry so much. Focus on delivering on the promise. If there's humor, if you can use humor to bridge a difficult topic, then humor works very, very well. If you can use humor to lighten the mood when you're teaching something that's intellectually difficult, that's wonderful. But you're using it. Everything is serving the speech. A story serves the speech. It helps you demonstrate a point. It helps you get them to see the world differently or to feel something. But it's not just a story for story's sake.
Which I think is hugely important. I know we have to start wrapping up in just a second, but I need to ask you this because at the very beginning, you talked about rehearsal. And I've known people that, like Pat Flynn, I don't know if you know Pat Flynn.
Yeah, I know Pat.
Rehearses. He's in my mastermind group, and I get to see him create his speeches.
I gave Pat a whole long breakdown of feedback on one of his speeches.
No way, really? That's awesome. He puts so much into them. It's utterly insane and amazing. But what is common? How often should we practice? How many hours should we put into this? If you had to tell us a number.
Well, I can tell you some numbers.
Okay.
But it varies depending on the speech, the importance of it, the length of it, and the material. So there's some material that you've been doing for years that you know inside and out, but you just haven't presented it in that particular way. Well, that may take less rehearsal. It might be brand new material, and content development is part of the rehearsal process. And in Steal the Show, I break down how you start developing content, then how you start rehearsing, then how you start reworking your content using rehearsal.
Nice.
Because you're not writing a book.
Yep.
It's a different process. And then how you go back to rehearsal to keep refining. So there's a 7-step rehearsal process in Steal the Show that is based on how the actor rehearses for a play or for a film. So you're using that same type of methodology. So generally, you need a lot more rehearsal than you think you do. And then you need a lot more rehearsal than that. And then you need a lot more rehearsal than that. So it's like a friend of mine in college, when he'd eat his hero sandwiches, his hoagie sandwiches, he'd put so much mayonnaise on it that you think you've ruined it and then put more. That's how you want to think about rehearsal. Do so much rehearsal that you think you've done too much rehearsal and then do more. Now, here's the thing that people are concerned about. They're concerned, if I rehearse, then I'll be stiff. I won't be in the moment. I won't be able to, because I'll be stuck. That only happens when you're partially rehearsed. If you've done a little bit of rehearsal, what happens is then you're giving the speech and you're trying to remember what you did in rehearsal, and you're not in the moment. The great performer is so well rehearsed that they walk on the stage and completely put what they rehearsed out of their mind. So everything that happens, even if it's exactly what they rehearsed, feels like it was the first time it ever happened.
Gave me chills on that one. That's awesome.
And that's the way it works. So if you are serious about, not you, but if one is serious about being a speaker and they want to make it a major part of their life, then they're going to need to do a lot more rehearsal than they think. I often ask the authors that. I say, guys, how long did it take you to write your book? Well, about 3 months to conceive of it, 3 months to write the book proposal, maybe another 8 months to a year to write the book. Okay. How many hours did you rehearse this hour-long keynote that you're going to do for 4,000 people? Well, I made my slides. And then I went over the slides a couple times. I think they'd probably be equivalent. I have a keynote that I do called the Think Big Revolution. And from start to finish, that was about 500 hours of work.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And a lot.
Now, a lot of that is the content development because it was new content. And then, of course, because it's a living, breathing piece of art, you're constantly improving, changing. It's not the same way twice. And it's not done. It's never done.
Yeah, you can always
change
make it better.
one thing. Yeah, you can always make it better. So generally I'm not asking people to do 500 hours of rehearsal.
Thank you.
Me.
Appreciate that. That's all right.
Not asking at all. But you want to get to the point where you feel so well rehearsed that you're not worried. And that you are so well rehearsed, you don't need any slides. This is the metric that I give people. If you feel like you could do the presentation without the slides, you're good. If you feel like you still need the slides to know what comes next, you need more rehearsal.
Oh, I like that. Okay.
So my primary keynote in Book Yourself Solid is no slides, 0 slides, no slides whatsoever. And the greatest piece of feedback for me personally, the greatest feedback I ever got was somebody said, Seth Godin and Michael Porter are my 2 favorite speakers in the business. Seth, because he can do 150 slides in the course of 30 minutes, not look at one of them, and tell you a great story about each one of them. Michael Porter, because he can keep you on the edge of your seat for 90 minutes without one slide. And so to me, it is a show. You are a teacher, you're delivering on a promise, but you want to create an experience for them. And there's lots of different ways to create experiences, but you want to create an experience for them. So if visuals help you, great. If they don't, then get rid of them. So to use slides or not to use slides has never been the question. It's what are you doing with them? The slides on their own are benign. They're just a tool.
You've inspired. It's so funny. I have 2 mentors that all charge 25 to 30 grand a speech. And I sort of backed away from doing more speaking, and you've just inspired me even more to be like, okay, you know what? Like, why am I not? There's not a lot of women. I might as well. What the heck?
Yeah.
All right.
Even if there were lots of women.
Exactly. What the heck? Why not? I have a long time to live. I might as well be doing something really cool. I know we need to start wrapping up. So I asked the same last question. At the beginning, you didn't even want to know. So I normally give people a heads up. And he's like, I don't want to know. Like, I hope you look like a deer in headlights up. No, I'm kidding.
All right, big test.
Are you ready?
Big test here.
Are you ready? All right.
Yeah.
What's one action listeners can take this week to help move them forward towards their goal of $1 million?
Buy, steal the show.
I'm out.
Yeah.
Drop the mic.
Do the thing that's scary. Do the thing that's scaring you. Do that one big thing that's scaring you. And that'll take you closer to your goals.
I love that. Okay, everybody that's listening, okay, not if you're in the car, but write down the thing that's scaring you, because most people will listen to you and be like, oh yeah, I know I'm supposed to do that, and not actually do anything with this, and it annoys the crap out of me.
Yeah, pretty much.
So, okay, do you have any idea? Can you give me a couple examples of things that you've done that were really scary that made a big difference, so that way we can give
So
some
let's
ideas?
say you want to write a book.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? You need an agent. Okay? What are you going to do about getting an agent? You're going to call some people who have an agent and you're going to ask for a referral? That might be scary. That's something you could do.
I love that.
can you make a big promise to your, even if you have 100 subscribers, doesn't matter. Can you make a big promise to them about delivering something to them by a certain date? Can you sell it right away without even having made it? Yeah. These are the kind of things that I do. These are the kind of things that I imagine you do. These are the kind of things that the other people who have, have been achieving their goals do. And it takes risk. And the performer is the one who is willing to take risks. The performer is the one who's willing to take risks, and not stupid risks. Like, I don't jump off bridges. I hate that stuff. I do not put myself in physical danger. I won't do that. But when it comes to trying to get to your dreams, look, here's the thing. If you finally admit how much something means to you, then you'll go after it. But sometimes we won't admit how much something means to us, because then if we don't get it, it doesn't hurt that much. So let's finally admit how much we want something. And I want all of your listeners to go buy Steal the Show.
Okay, tell me exactly how they do that, so that way we can make you happy, Michael.
Thank you. Anywhere books are sold, of course, but stealtheshow.com, stealtheshow.com is a great place to go, because there are lots of bonuses that you get when you buy the book. During pre-sale of a book launch, we give away the farm. I mean, we're talking tickets to live events. We're talking real major online courses, templates for creating your speeches, and the list goes on and on and on. So if you go over to stealtheshow.com, you can see that. Also, I just dropped a podcast yesterday. 5,031 downloads on the first day.
Wow, congratulations. That's huge.
Yeah. We were number 8 top business podcast. I want to get up to 1, but we were close. So that's really good. If you want more of the kind of advice that we have been talking about today, that's a great place to start also, because it's all free. And a lot of my episodes are 5 minutes, 10 minutes, really hard-hitting content, really fast. And it's just me, which is not quite as exciting as if having you there, but it's second to that.
Second, good. They need a second, so they might as well go listen to that. Where can they find that in iTunes? So what's the name of the show, so that way they can
Steal the Show with Michael Port.
How perfect. Okay, but everybody.
.com/podcast. It's there too.
Okay, so anybody that don't, of course, listen to the podcast, but go buy the book. It's probably like $20. And Michael Port is a genius, so
less than that.
Exactly. Thank you so much for coming on the show today. I really appreciate it. You're awesome.
Oh, it's my pleasure. My pleasure.
I hope you enjoyed that interview. And if you want more like it, go to eventualmillionaire.com. If you click on the millionaire case studies, you will see over 200 millionaire interviews. I don't want you to get overwhelmed, of course, but I do want you to pick the one that might make the biggest difference in your business today. So what's something you're struggling with, and take a look and see if one of those could specifically help you. Don't just take information for information's sake. I want you to be able to take the information, have it applicable to you right now. You use it, you take action, you see results, you come back and go, Jaime, that was amazing. That's what I want. So go check out eventualmillionaire.com and click on the millionaire case studies. Thanks.